So welcome to our Coronation Double Century race briefing, and a lot of stuff we're going to talk about in this race briefing. I've got Dave Belair, who's the director of the Cycle Tour Trust, with the organisers of the event, and Don Everett, who's the race director of the Coronation Double Century. And for those of you that have done this race before, we encourage you to keep watching this entire presentation, because there's a lot of stuff that you need to know ahead of the 2019 event, which is just a few days away. So remember, there's lots of logistics involved, there's roadworks we need to talk a bit about, and there's also stuff that you probably think, oh, I've heard that before, but I promise you it's worth listening to this rest of the presentation. For those of you who've never done the race before, there's lots of stuff you need to know about your support team, about how you even get to the race itself, and about some of the logistics on the day. So a lot to remember. But Dave, let's just start off with you, and before we get into the presentation, how many of these things have you done over the years?
Too many. This will be number 22. So I've started 21, finished 20, and now starting out in number 22.
What do you love about it?
The camaraderie. I think it's all about the lead up to the event. It's about riding with a group of mates, and it's about for us. It's a journey of an entire team, and it's taking that whole team from the start to the finish. It isn't a race. I've never raced it. I've ridden it, and for me, it's about taking that entire team through the highs and the lows that you'll go through, and I think that's what really makes it. You see a true character come out of people after about 180 k's, and you hit those three little hills at the end. They're very special.
Yeah, it is a tough event. I mean, I know you and I have been teammates for a number of years, and I've had a couple of bails. You know, that last 30 kilometers is something where you really have to dig deep, and I think that's what makes it a really special challenge, because you can't get through that section unless you've got teammates around. If you were solo, it would be much more difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard elite riders talk about how their vision sort of in the last 2 or 3 k's narrows into this dark tunnel of pain as they head over the last 3 hills. That's the racing element. And for us mere mortals at the back of the field, we're in as much pain. We're just going a hang of a lot slower.
One quick question. Why do you send us up a hill right at the end?
Oh.
Why don't they make it a flat section?
No. We needed to make it interesting. So the truth of the matter is, if you go straight, you get to a 4-way stop. And that 4-way stop has always got a whole bunch of cars at it. And when you've got teams barreling down on a 4-way stop to do a left turn, there's big trucks and cars. So the only way we could get back into Swellendam was over that last little kicker. And it's there to keep it real, keeps it really real.
Don, you're the race director. It is logistically a massive job. Do you enjoy the day?
Oh, well, I actually do enjoy the day. I enjoy cutting Dave off just before he gets to the finish day. But it's a very intensive event to organise. You know, if I compare it to Cycle Tour, there's a tremendous amount of logistics involved. I think purely because of the distance of the route, the fact that we're going through 3 different sort of regions, municipalities. So from an organisational point of view, there's a lot to consider, and there's some, as people that have ridden it before, they'll know there's a lot of construction going on down there. You know, so it is intensive, but you know, I'm very happy with where we are planning wise this year, and yeah, we're looking forward to it. You know, we've got a sold out field. So I think from my perspective and my team's perspective, you know, the safety aspects of the race are obviously of paramount importance. You know, so that's our focus area while Dave enjoys his ride.
Okay, so we'll get into the details of the route, and particularly the roadworks that are on the section. We'll get into that in one of the slides a bit later. But there are sections where there are neutral zones. Please take note of those, and it's very important that for the safety of the riders and also for the future of the race, that we adhere to those neutral zones. So we'll get into that a bit later. 27th running of the DC this year, the 12th year on the course that we're going to be running with it in a couple of weeks' time. So it is a history that's got a massive load of history behind it. And certainly for all of those who've entered, I'm sure the butterflies are starting to go already. But let's get into the presentation, and I think, Dave, you're going to start us off with the first couple of slides.
Yeah, if we can, if I look to my right there and we get some prompted, we can skip that terrible picture of Don and I. So items we're going to cover tonight quickly are the race registration and number pack collection, the rider offering on race day, what to expect, the road closures, route info and roadworks, refreshment stations and feeding zones. Very important for the drivers as well as the participants. Team support vehicles, routes and rules, team support zones in Ashton and Bonnievale, and then logistics, the cut-off sweep operation, the mechanical support that will be on the route at various points, mechanical support and what to do in case of emergency. That's very important. And then we'll have some questions at the end. Okay, so most important, there are 3 registrations taking place. The first will be next Tuesday, and that's here at our offices in Rondebosch, so in the southern suburbs. So anybody living in Cape Town or the surrounds, you can register at our offices, and that's between 2 and 7 o'clock. On Wednesday, the 20th of November, we move out to the northern suburbs to Chris Willemse Cycles. That's shop 12C at Willowbridge. And we'll have the registration there between 2 and 6 o'clock. So if you're in the northern suburbs, that's the place to register. And then Friday, the 22nd of November, that's the day before the event, from 12 until 8 in the evening. Now, Mike, I'm going to interject at this point for folk that are driving up, and it's very important to remember. There are extensive roadworks on two of the routes in from the south. So if you're coming in from Cape Town and you've chosen to come on the N2, there are extensive roadworks on the N2 between Cape Town and Swellendam. Stop and goes. So I would give yourselves at least an hour, an additional hour to get to Swellendam. If you're coming up via the N1 and you turn off at Worcester to come via Worcester and Robertson, there again are extensive roadworks between Worcester and Robertson that you are going to get held up at. So please be aware of those. We are making sure that especially if you're coming up to register on Friday, you don't want to be leaving late afternoon and missing the 8 o'clock registration, which is at the showgrounds where the start is on the Saturday morning. Okay.
We're just going to take a short break. Just got a few audio problems which we're going to just sort out in the next couple of minutes. So just take a short break. So we've dealt with the registration venues. I think, back one slide if you would. So registration will be done by team. So remember, you don't have to have all team members. All 12 team members don't need to arrive at the registration venue, just your team captain. It does make things a lot easier and a lot cleaner. Any team changes or substitutions can be done at registration. There is a fee that goes with that, and that's 200 Rand per change. We've given teams up until the very last minute to get their details in, so we're hoping that there'll be very few of those. And then support vehicle accreditation, you will only get if you have the driver and car details on hand. That's very important. Our JOC, our Joint Operations Centre running the event in Swellendam, needs to make sure that they have your vehicle details, that's the registration number, as well as the driver details, and that includes his contact details, his telephone number. Okay, moving on to the next slide. So, our giveaway this year, thanks to Coronation, our sponsors. You will notice in that picture you're going to be getting a number of items in your race pack. The first, in keeping with being environmentally friendly and realizing that most of us cyclists on the weekend head out and are stopping at numerous coffee shops around the Cape Peninsula and or Johannesburg or wherever it is you're living. So what we've done this year is we've included a folder cup. It's something that runners and cyclists both use and can be used as a takeaway mug at any coffee venue you go to, and folds up perfectly to go into your back pocket. So that's a fantastic gift, and a huge thank you to Coronation for that. A pair of Bridgedale socks, a cooling towel, a water bottle. There'll be 2 bags of ice that you can collect at the registration venue, a sachet of Hydrofit from Named Sport, and then some snacks from our fine sponsors at Fresh Stop. Okay, moving on. We're going on to the number collection. As I said, is per team, and we've gone back a slide and not forward a slide. So I'm going to look to our technical team. There we go. So this is the cup you're going to be getting. You'll see that it folds in half. It's made of a plastic, a reusable plastic that doesn't get your hands hot when you've got extremely hot cappuccino in there, and it's got a special handle on the back. And as you see in the second of those 2 pictures, it folds up into a very small, lightweight cup, BPA free, and fits into your back pocket. Importantly, it doesn't drip coffee in your back pocket once you folded it. That gets caught in the fold. Right, moving on to the next slide. You will receive at the finish a team photograph, which will be emailed to your team captain. Now remember, once you finish at the finish line, which is about 2 or 3 Ks out of town, you will go into neutral down to the finish area where you will collect your medal. You'll get your Coca-Cola at the finish line, and you'll move through to where the bike park is, and there the team will be able to gather in front of a backdrop and have a team photograph taken with your medals at the finish line, and that is compliments of Coronation, and that will be emailed to you. Right, next slide. There will be a limited amount of Coronation Double Century merchandise available at all the registration venues. Please note that is first come, first serve. We did have it online for those teams that got their riders in early. You would have been able to get online and purchase that. But our supplier will have a limited stock available at the venues. Right, moving on.
I'm going to hand over to Donovan, who will start to take you through the logistics for race day itself and moving into the event.
Okay, perfect. Good evening, everybody, once again. And I think, yeah, just from a race logistics side, there's a hell of a lot of information that's going to be coming through right now. I'm not expecting you to go through absolutely everything with me, and I'm not going to be able to go through everything with you. Otherwise, we're going to be here for quite a few hours. So it's important to note that this presentation is available up on the website, so you'll be able to download and interact with it as you wish. And it's important that you actually do that, because a lot of the information that we're going to be speaking about tonight is actually critical for the success of your race. So just in terms of the race day traveling times, Dave has actually mentioned that there's a hell of a lot of construction on the way down there. So when we're considering your traveling times, please just add probably an extra 40 minutes to an hour onto these actual times now because of the construction. I think it's important to note that if you want to travel to Swellendam via the Trudeau Pass and Cockmanscliff, they will be closed to vehicles between 5:30 a.m. and 9:30 a.m. That's on race day. And then again as well between sort of 8:15 a.m. and 12 o'clock for Cockmanscliff. And then, as I've mentioned, we suggest that you just add an hour onto these times as well. If at any time you are not actually sure what is happening from a traffic perspective, you can also give our jock a call, and we'll probably be able to give you a sort of a live update as to what's going on there. Okay, right. Moving on. Okay, on this slide over here, we have quite a few road closures, literally all the way from Swellendam right through the actual route to the race. I'm not going to go through each one intrinsically. I think it's important to note that some of these road closures come into effect literally from 4 a.m. in the morning, and they last right through to sort of 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So please familiarize yourself with the various road closures, as they will have an impact on actual race day, as well as they'll have an impact on your support vehicle driver as well, of which details we're going to go through later within the presentation.
Right, back to me for a slide. A very important change this year is the way we're going to be managing the neutral zone at Cockmanscliff, which is the entrance that you head out of Montague. So if you're coming from Swellendam on the R62, you've come over the two big climbs, the Trudeau Pass and the Op the Trudeau Pass, and you're now heading down to Montague. The road into Montague is only going to be closed to public traffic and open to cyclists from 9:30 in the morning. Now remember that we seed cyclists slowest first and fastest last. And the reason for that is that we try to minimize the amount of time that we're going to be out on the road. But what often happens is teams that are seeded incorrectly too early end up getting onto the route where we don't have marshals in place, where traffic management isn't yet underway, and that is dangerous. So what we've done this year is we're going to ensure that you will only be allowed into the neutral zone at Montague, that's the Cockmanscliff, from 9:30 in the morning. So if you suspect that your seedings will come out later this week, if you suspect that you're going to get to Montague before 9:30, then you need to contact the office to be seeded for a later start. That's very important. If you arrive before 9:30, your time will keep running, but you will not be allowed to continue until the road actually opens to cyclists at 9:30. That's very important. The next most important thing is the first rider will only be allowed out of the team feeding zone at Ashton at 10:15. So that's 45 minutes after we've opened the pass, the Cockmanscliff Pass. So you've got 45 minutes to get through the pass into the feed zone, have some food, but you will not be allowed out until 10:15. The reason for this has to do with the new ladies racing category that we've introduced. And we have a number of ladies teams racing this year, and we want them to be able to race in the second half of the event unimpeded. It won't impact on anybody else's event, provided you make sure that you've been seeded correctly. So please, folks, if you think you're going to get to Montague before 9:30 on Saturday morning after you've started, and when you know your seeding time, get hold of the office and ask for a later start. Don, back to you.
Thanks, Dave. Okay, so just to clarify a couple of points I mentioned earlier on, if on your trip on the way down, you want to get a traffic update, you could phone our JOC. Our JOC stands for the Joint Operations Centre. That number is coming up later within the presentation, and there will also be traffic updates via Facebook, which will be conducted by our office. So if you want those live updates, please just contact us via those platforms, and we'll be able to update you. Okay, so moving on to sort of race day. Before you start, obviously the big day, just bear in mind that we have got an absolutely jam-packed field this year. So your preparations for race day, all those sort of funny things that you do, or your sort of setups that you need to get right for the race day, please make sure that it's all done the night before. You're not running around in the morning. I think, one of the most important things is obviously because of the congestion that we got down there and the amount of teams. If you can try and please ride in from the hotel accommodation if you're staying in Swellendam. The parking is very limited. The parking is opposite the Swellendam Showgrounds. It's at the school. It's just off Station Street. But because we have a packed field this year, it's going to be quite tight there. So if you are staying in Swellendam, rather just ride down there and get warmed up on the way down. In terms of the actual race village itself, for those that have ridden the Coronation Double Century before, will be quite familiar with the venue. It's exactly the same as previous years. It's the Swellendam Showgrounds. They're very convenient venue. Everything is really contained within the venue. Riders will enter the Swellendam Showgrounds from Station Street, which is opposite the school, as mentioned earlier on. When you actually enter the showgrounds, it's pretty obvious where you need to go. There's a tarmac, a road that you will follow. It then veers off to the left, and then we have the start chutes that you will load into. It's important to note that a lot of riders actually arrive here beforehand. They meet the other team members here. They go to the toilet. They have photographs taken. They have coffee. So when it comes to your timings and your actual start time, please just bear in mind, if you're going to have a routine or meet other riders, that just add extra time onto it, because it can get congested in this area. And if you are running around last minute and you miss that start time, it's going to have an impact on your race time as well. Okay, so 4 things really that you need to start. I think the field that generally rides Coronation Double Century is a field that has ridden many other races before. So these points are a little bit obvious, but even though I say that, it tends to happen. Please, your official Coronation Double Century race number. It's important that you have that displayed. Your race tech chip, your bike sticker, and then obviously your helmet. One thing that we don't have on here, which sometimes tend to get forgotten, is your shoes as well. So that's happened quite a few times. So please, just as I mentioned earlier on, the night before, really just go through everything and then make sure that everything is in place. And then I think lastly as well, don't forget mechanical spares. It's a hell of a long race through different terrain, and it's really important that you do have mechanical spares on you. We are going to have mechanics on the route, but they will be obviously spread right across the distance of over 200 kilometers. A couple other points to note, just go back to that slide there very quickly, is that one team starts at a time. They are 30 seconds apart. Your allocated team start time is your actual start time and not when you cross over the start mat. So just on this point, in previous years, people were busy in the toilet or they're having photographs taken or whatever the story might be. Your start time is the start time. So please, it's not when you cross over the mat. It is your allocated start time. So get organized and make sure that your team is organized prior to that.
Don, and
Dave.
the bike sticker.
Yes.
So a quick update. Normally we give you a number plate that goes on the front of your bike, which is used for identification by the cameras. This year we're not going to have that. You will get a bike sticker, which you will put on your top tube. And that is essentially, if you are parted from your bike at any time during the race, we need to be able to get that bike back to you. So please make sure you put that sticker on the bike.
100%. Thanks, Dave. Okay, so we're going to be moving into the actual Coronation Double Century route, and what we've done is we've broken it up into 3 sections just so we can briefly go through it. But as I mentioned earlier on, once again, please download this information or go onto our website and have a look at it. It is existing if you want to go through it in more intrinsic detail. So going on to section 1, which is really just the start in Swellendam. An important area to note here, you're going to be riding through Swellendam and then you'll come out onto the N2. The timing in the morning that you do come out onto that N2, there will be sun directly in your eyes. Okay, so the N2, I don't need to explain too much about that. It is very dangerous. We are going to have marshals there. We are going to have bike marshals. But please try not to bunch out. Try and keep 2 riders abreast. vehicles that are coming from behind you are also going to have the sun in their eyes as well. So it's imperative that you really just on that N2 section, safety is obviously paramount there, and just really be cautious. From there, you then head down to Seerbruck along the R324. There will be a water refreshment station just on Trudeau Pass there, and then you'll get to Barrydale. From there, you head out on the R62. On that R62, your first sort of pit stop will be coming up, and then you will head up onto sort of Montague as well. Montague is quite an important area in the fact that it is actually the start of our neutral zone. So those people that have ridden the race before will be very familiar with it. It is in place once again this year. Unfortunately, there is a lot of construction still down in that area. And for that very reason, and for rider safety, we have made that a neutral zone. So as you enter Montague, you'll come into Riebeck Street. You'll then go over some timing mats, which basically indicates that you are now in a neutral zone. You will have to ride under 30 kilometers an hour through the duration of that neutral zone, through Cockman's Cliff, onto Ashton. And then once again, coming into Ashton, also just be aware that there's a lot of roadworks in Ashton. There's a lot of vehicular traffic. So once again, please also just ride two abreast as you come into Ashton. From Ashton, you head out back on the R60 to Robertson, and then head down towards sort of Van Leuven, towards Rooibrug, and then onto the R317 towards Bonnievale. And then from Bonnievale, if we can go on to the slide 3 there, you will then come into your sort of second feed zone, and then from Bonnievale, you will then head on towards the finish at Swellendam. So just go back on the slide there. I want to just talk you through some roadworks there. As I've mentioned, the roadworks from Cockman's Cliff and Ashton, please ensure once again that you have sufficient mechanical spares. As mentioned, we will have mechanics on site, but you never know. If you do walk, keep as far left as possible. There's lots of bikes moving through there and possibly some traffic as well. No cycling more than two abreast, as mentioned. And then obviously just, if you are in bad sections of the road, which hopefully you won't be, just exercise extreme caution as well. Okay, and then the last side, which is section 3, as I just mentioned now, is really from Bonnievale, which is the second feed zone, which then heads towards Drew on the R317, and then up onto the R60, and then down towards Swellendam. Well, not really down towards Swellendam. You'll be going up the Sisters first, and then down towards Swellendam from there for hopefully a good finish. Okay, next slide. Okay, there are various stops along the route, and I think this is obviously really important when you sort of planning your race, and obviously your race strategy for those racing guys out there and girls. Trudeau Pass at the 32-kilometer mark is your first refreshment station, which is basically just water and Coke. At Trudeau is your first sort of feeding station, which is at the 65-kilometer mark. Ashton, which is 115 kilometers, is the team support zone. So that's where your team vehicles are able to meet you and unpack your lunch or your blow-up pool, as Dave's had in previous years, and whatever other refreshments that you got. Moving on from there, you go towards Rooibrug at the 145-kilometer mark, which is also a refreshment station. And then Bonnievale at the 160-kilometer mark, which is your last team support zone. And then obviously from there, you move on to Drew, which is 176 kilometers, which is also a feeding station. We generally try to get some water before you head up those Three Sisters. So there might be some water available if the day is hot. But once again, I think when it comes to planning your hydration and nutrition, specifically in the Coronation Double Century, it's vitally important that you get that correct and you understand where those refreshment station and feed zones are. Moving on to you, Dave.
All right. So there was a question that came through about the neutral zone. The neutral zone is about 13 kilometers. So this is the first neutral zone when you move through from Montague to Ashton. It's about 13 k's long, and you've got a half an hour to do that in, which means you don't need to exceed 30 k's an hour. Most important. The actual feed zones themselves are about 2 k's long. So depending on where you are in the feed zone, you're going to need a couple of minutes to get yourself through the feed zone to the mat on the far side. So 13 k's is that neutral zone, Montague to Ashton, and then 2 k's in the Ashton feed zone and 2 k's in the Bonnievale feed zone. Right. Talking through areas of the route that one needs to exercise extreme caution. Don has spoken about a couple of those. We'll brush over them when we get to them. But from a cycling perspective, the 3 major descents of the Coronation Double Century. The first one is the Trudeau Pass. It's a sweeping descent once you've climbed up the Trudeau Pass from the Seerbrock side, and it's fairly early on in the event. Please, folks, just take it easy down that descent. Slow riders, keep over to the left and hold your line. Watch out for riders coming up behind you. And folks that are coming down at speed, really, there's no need to ruin your event that early by overcooking it on some of those corners. The next major descent is the Op the Trudeau Pass descent. So you've got the long climb of Op the Trudeau, and then you've got a lengthy descent on the far side of Op the Trudeau after there's a water station we have at the top. It's a very exposed descent, and if the wind is blowing, can catch you from the side. So please exercise caution as you head down that descent. And then Don has spoken clearly about the roadworks going through Montague. Very important that through Montague and the Kochmanskloof that you exercise extreme caution. There are roadworks, hectic roadworks on the go, and we need you to be careful. The Ashton Team Support Zone. Now, the reason we made the Team Support Zones neutral was so that you don't have to rush to get to your team vehicle. Okay, so once you're into the Team Support Zone, slow down, take it easy. You'll find where your vehicle is. They're all laid out in number order. And get your sustenance that you need and then head on out. The left turn out of Ashton Team Support Zone, that's TSZ, towards Robertson Circle, there's roadworks on the go there. We've spoken to the contractors. They're going to be moving the cones out wide. So watch out when you turn left out of that feed zone heading towards Robertson. The Bonnievale Team Support Zone, again, just once you get into the Team Support Zone and you've crossed the timing mats, slow down and take it easy. The stretch after Bonnievale Team Support Zone, cyclists are moving for the first time together with their team support vehicles for about 2 Ks. It's vitally important that the team support vehicles are cognizant of the team vehicles around them, and the team drivers are keeping an eye open for the cyclists. It's a 2K stretch of road. The cyclist will turn left heading towards Drew, and the motorists will continue on towards Stormsley. So just watch out for that. Rules of the road apply. This is not a closed road route. We have road closure over the Kochmanskloof, and that's it, and that's for a short time in the morning. For the rest, there will be public traffic on the road. So don't ride more than 2 abreast. There are going to be teams coming past you. Ride single file on the N2 and stay in the yellow reserve. Very important. No crossing over the white line at any point around the route. And I ask the faster teams passing the slower teams. Slower teams, keep to the left. Faster teams, please be responsible and act with caution as you pass these slower teams on the route. We will have motorbike marshals that will be patrolling and taking note of teams that are behaving badly, and those will be reported into the VOC. Take note of all the caution signage and marshals indicating caution zones, especially on the descent of the Trudeau Pass. And be aware of potholes, especially between Montague and Ashton. The road is under construction, and there are a number of significant potholes there. We try our best to tidy up where we can. Don's team does an amazing job together with the guys from Swillen and Fitzroy, but there's only so much we can do on a 200k route. So for a comprehensive list of the rules, don't forget to visit the website at Coronation DC. Don, back to you.
Thanks, Dave. Okay, so we're just heading on to the Coronation Team Support Zone map, and I think it's just important to mention here that we've got a tremendous amount of team support vehicles, and the logistics around this is quite intensive. So on the race day, we're probably going to have around about 250 to 260 vehicles, and because of this, the team support vehicles actually have their own route for that very purpose, for safety purposes. And as Dave's mentioned, I think there's only 1 or 2 places on the course where you're actually on the same road, and the rest of the time you are taking your own route. So this map just really explains from Swellendam how do you get to Ashton, which is along the R60, which is that first team support zone. Then you go from there down to Bonnievale, and then which is the second team support zone, and then you head out towards the Stormsley and then back in on the N2. There are some further slides which are coming up now, of which I'll explain some more detail around it. Just on that photograph, if you can just go back to that photograph, I just want Dave to talk through a couple of things here.
Yeah, I think this photograph indicates very clearly how busy that team support zone is going to be when it comes to vehicles. Now, remember, when you park your vehicle in the team support zone or you're going to erect a structure, you need to minimize the amount of space that you're taking up. That is vitally important. You'll notice in the foreground there's a white combi type car that's parked, and it's parked at 90 degrees to the road, which is absolutely perfect. It's minimizing its exposure to the road, and that means he can put his gazebo up next to him. The car next along is parked parallel to the road, but is parked deep, using the gazebo or his shaded area in front of the car, between the car and the road. So once again, minimizing the space. If you have 12 cool boxes, don't be the guy that takes the 12 cool boxes out your car and spread them out over 20 meters so your riders can come and each get their cool box. Keep them in one area, keep them together. It is, as Don has indicated, it's going to be extremely tight, and we need the teams to be playing together with each other in those team support zones and making space for each other. So bear with each other. Don, back to you.
Okay, so team support vehicles, just a couple of quick insights here. I think number one, fill up your vehicle with fuel before heading out onto the route. It's obviously quite a long route, and you don't want to be breaking down along the route while your team is waiting for you to get fed at one of those team support zones. I think you'd be very unpopular. So please fill up your vehicle. The support vehicles must head straight out to Ashton from the start on the R60. There will once again be directions on the website, and there will be a pack available for the team support drivers. I do know that from previous years, the team support driver seems to be the one that gets the shortest straw, and those drivers can actually only really be briefed on the Friday. Once again, if there's any information that we can help you with that isn't existing on the website, please make use of the telephone numbers that we give you, or come down to the Swellendam Showgrounds and we'll talk you through things. It's absolutely imperative that the team support drivers follow the rules and regulations, because it could make the difference between your team coming first, second, third, or losing out on those positions altogether, which has happened in previous years. There will also be no seconding anywhere else on the route, which will result in an immediate disqualification. So please just bear that in mind. And then the support vehicles need to follow this prescribed route to the team support zones. The maps and rules will be in the support drivers' info packs, as well as the actual route that the drivers take will be very clearly marked out on race day as well. So really, please just take note of that. You don't want to be docked points, and you want to be adhering to these rules and regulations. And once again, if you're unsure, please just communicate, and we'll give you some directions. Okay, so just coming up over here is it's getting to the Ashton team support zone, literally from Swellendam. I'm not going to run through all those points over there because we're going to be here for the whole night. But this will once again be included in the team support drivers pack. So please just really familiarize yourself. Once again, ask questions, and then once again, if you are unsure of anything, please just give us a call and communicate, and we're able to help you out. The Ashton team support zone, approximately it's a 40-minute drive from the team support vehicle for the team support vehicle to travel from Swellendam to Ashton. So just bear those timings in mind. Also just bear in mind that there's going to be a whole lot of other team support vehicles that are also going to be on the road. So maybe just sort of add an extra 20 minutes on that in terms of your planning. The team support zone is in Zandvliet Road in Ashton. It's very clearly marked out. You'll be able to see all our marshals leading up to that. There will be marshals within the team support zone as well. That will obviously be giving you a guide as to where you can park and how you should park. I know that when sometimes you're running late and you're in rush, things can happen, but please just adhere to what they're saying. They're really there to make everybody's day a lot easier. The team support zone for Ashton, it's located just after the Ashton Cannery, which is over the bridge on the main road. We expect the first team to reach Ashton at around 9:45, so that's 9:45. Will be the first team coming through there. There'll also be limited water available towards the end of the team support zone as well as toilets that will be available within the team support zone. Getting on to Bonnievale from Ashton. Okay, so this will be your second team support zone. This is an indication of just a route map as you would go, and then once again, as explained, there will be very clear marked out signage as to how you get there, and then this actual map will be within your race pack as well. So whoever that nominated driver is, whoever's drawn that short straw, irrespective of the amount of beers that they've had, please just make sure once again that they really adhere to these rules, as you don't want to get dock timing for anything. Okay, in terms of the Bonneville team support zone, you'll travel with cyclists for 1.5 kilometers. Do not turn left with the cyclist towards Drew. We expect the first team to reach Bonneville at around 11 a.m. Do not turn left towards Bonneville at the exit to the team support zone, please. And then also, once again, be limited water available towards the end of the team support zone. Please also note there's roadworks on the N2 between Stormslow Road and Swellendam. And the travel time to Swellendam may take longer than 45 minutes. That's also been mentioned earlier on. I think there was a question that came through about Drew Low Water Bridge being under construction. We are very well aware of it at the moment, and we have got our teams down there busy sorting it out. And we do believe that it'll be rectified for race day. If anything, we'll keep you updated as to what the progress is there. But as we sit here right now, we have been given an undertaking that it'll be right for race day. Okay, so just in terms of the general team support zone rules, there's different accreditation for each team support zone, only one vehicle per zone. Accreditation must be applied to the vehicle, the top of the windscreen. It must be clearly visible. And this might seem like a trivial point, but the marshals that are actually checking the vehicles that are coming in, if that accreditation is applied anywhere else, they can't see it. So what will happen is they'll stop you, it'll cause a delay, you'll get frustrated. So please just adhere to the fact that actual accreditation really needs to go into the top of the windscreen and be clearly visible. You must display your vehicle accreditation on both front and back windscreens, please. So that's both front and back windscreens. And then caution at designated zones, as cyclists may be moving on the road at the same time. So, I think once again, the obvious is that within those team support zones, there's a tremendous amount of traffic moving around, cars parking, unloading, teams arriving. So mistakes can happen if people are in a rush. Please can I ask that you just sort of be aware of what is going on around you, be aware of cyclists sort of riding, and then the cyclists as well, from your point of view, when you do enter those team support zones, really just slow your speed down and just be aware of the vehicles around you and them setting up. Please also follow traffic and speed rules between team support zones. We do have the BMW bike marshals that will be on the route. We do have marshals as well. I do know that when you are in race mode that you tend to not see them, but please just try and be aware they are there for your safety and for your support. In terms of supporters or spectators to follow teams or feed support along the route, there will be none of that happening, please. Obviously, as mentioned before, the amount of vehicles that are on the route is tremendous. So to then have spectators and supporters along that is just going to add to obviously the safety risks that we are obviously adhering to. There'll be limited toilet facilities available within those team support zones, as mentioned before. And then, from a littering perspective, I think the Coronation Double Century really prides itself in the fact that we go through a beautiful route, beautiful districts, and we have the support of the locals, and we really don't want to be leaving any litter behind. So please just make sure that no litter is left in those team support vehicles. And then also from the rider's perspective as well, when you are riding within your team format and you do take a goo out your back pocket, please just take that litter, put it in your back pocket again. We will be having marshals and bike marshals, obviously making sure that litter rule is adhered to. Okay. Dave, over to you.
Yeah, this is the guy I referred to earlier. So this is how we don't want you to behave in a team support zone. So you'll see there that the car has parked parallel to the road, and then laid the bags out all the way along the road, taking up space that another car could be parking. So we understand that at certain parts of the road it's narrow, in which case park as deep as you can and use the area between your car and the tar road. As we've said, it's going to be congested. We know it's going to be congested, and we ask you to please work with each other. Don't arrive there with a massive trailer on the back and a car because you're going to be turned around. The other thing that is very important, and Don mentioned it, I'm going to say it again, littering. There was a team that nearly lost its first place for littering a number of years back. So please, folks, litter is just completely unacceptable. So there it is. There are 10 teams allocated per area that you come into. So when you arrive into the zone, they will start numbering from 1. So if you're team number 250. Don't start looking for your team support zone at the very beginning of the team support area. You know that you need to ride all the way through slowly to the far end. And likewise, if you're team 125, you're likely to be somewhere in the middle. So fairly easy to find them. They're demarcated in groups of 10, and your car will be in that block. What we have said to vehicles in the past, don't try and work out exactly which is the first, second, third, or fifth spot in that area. If you're first into the area, take the meterage that you're allowed for your car, which is about 10 meters. Don, that's correct?
Yeah, it's about between 5 to 10.
5 to 10 meters, says Don. So use as
tight as possible.
Yeah, use as tight as possible, and then the next vehicle coming in. Remember, your team will find you. You're going to be in that block of 10 teams. Right, moving on. So it's 8 to 10 meters there. Don, I'm going to hand over to you to go through the rules and infringements.
Okay, we're almost done, folks. So just bear with us. We're moving along steadily here. In terms of the rule infringements, we do have commissaires and the marshals on motorbikes. We'll be monitoring cyclists and the team support vehicles as well. Offences will be called into the venue operations centre on the number displayed, and then all offences will be logged. So it's everything follows a very formal process. If a complaint has been logged against the support vehicle, the team captain and or team support driver, they must then report to the VOC, the venue operations centre, post race. So that VOC is actually at the Swellendam Showgrounds, and if there's any I'd probably say offences logged, you would then need to report to that, and then our commissaires will duly handle that. Important to note as well, teams may be disqualified if the support vehicles break the rules. So I think I've covered that quite extensively in the previous slides. That just to reiterate that once again, you really just don't want that happening. So please just make sure that those team support drivers are up to speed with the rules and regulations. Okay, so cyclists withdrawing from the event, obviously with a really big field and this being a challenging event, there are quite a few withdrawals. It's important to note that the cyclists that do withdraw from the race at either Ashton or Bonnievale team support zone must be transported to the finish by their own team support vehicle. Okay, so if you're not feeling great and you don't have the legs for it, please just try and get through to that Ashton team support zone or the Bonnievale support zone, and really help us with the logistics there in terms of being transported back by your own team support vehicle to Swellendam. Also, if you are going to do that and if you are going to pull out the race, please once again call the venue operations centre at Swellendam once you're in your support vehicle so that we know that you are safe and have withdrawn. Sometimes we do have a lot of people that phone in looking for somebody, and it's important that we really know where they are. So if you are going to withdraw and you get into your team support vehicle, please, it's imperative that you do phone into the VOC and let us know that you are safe and sound. Okay, moving on there. With regards to the cutoffs, also really just important to take note of these times. The first cutoff is at Optredodo feeding station, and that is at 10 a.m. The second cutoff will be at 12:30, which is the Ashton team support zone. The third cutoff is at 2:30, which is at the Bonnievale team support zone. And then we have at Hoppers a cutoff at Drew feeding station, and then the finish itself at Hoppers 4. Okay, so please just take note of those cutoffs when obviously you're planning your race and seeing how you're going along during the course of the day. In terms of the sweep operation, cyclists must call the VOC on the number displayed on the screen now, and a sweep will be dispatched to collect cyclists should they be unable to continue anywhere on the route, obviously excluding the team support zones. So it's imperative that this number is carried with you. It is on your armbands, it is on the stickers. So if you do find yourself in a bit of trouble and you are sort of nowhere near any sort of support, please just call that and we'll be able to dispatch one of our medical teams or our sweep operation to come pick you up. Cyclists who are cut off will be directed to the sweep vehicles as well. So if you are cut off and you've missed those cut off times, the sweep vehicles will then pick you up as well as your bike. Cyclists may not continue to cycle the route after the respective cutoffs have been implemented. I mean, obviously for safety procedures and for your own safety, the roads are reopened, so there will be vehicles on the roads. So cyclists will definitely not be allowed to continue on the route after the cutoffs have been implemented. So please just adhere to that. In terms of mechanical support, we'll have a pop-up bike shop with a mechanic, which will be at the race village on Friday and Saturday morning before the race. So if you do arrive down in Swellendam on Friday and you want a couple of things checked over, or if you've got a couple of mechanicals, really just pop down there. We will have a mechanic on site there. They will be situated next to the main hall on the showgrounds. They're very clearly marked out, so I'm sure you'll be able to find them. And then in terms of the actual route itself, we have mobile mechanics. They will have limited spares, hence the reason why we do ask you to bring spares. And they'll be stationed at the Trudeau and Cockman's Cliff areas as well. And then once again, really just to make sure your team have enough mechanical spares for any emergencies along the route as well, please. Okay, with regards to medical support, the Coronation Double Century really prides itself on the partnership that we have with Mediclinic and the excellent support from a medical perspective that they do give us. We do have 5 doctors and nurses that are assigned to the race. We have 7 ambulances with paramedics. We have additional motorbike paramedics on Trudeau Pass and the Cockman's Cliff stretch. We also have advanced life support at medical points at Bonnievale Cellars, and then a full medical facility at Swellendam Showgrounds. There will be first aiders on the sweep vehicles, and there will also be finish line finish line medics. Once again, just on the medical aspect of the race as well, because of the distance of the route, I did mention earlier on, if you do find yourself in a medical situation or you see an incident unfolding, please really just as quickly as possible phone into that venue operations center, and then we'll dispatch our medics from there. Okay. On the screen right now is probably the most important number that you need to take down right now, besides obviously having your own ID number. This number is the race day emergency number. So it's absolutely imperative that you have this number on you. I did mention earlier on it will be in wristbands. And really this is the number to phone that'll come straight through to our venue operations center should you be dealing with any issues. When I'm talking about issues, I'm talking about medical issues, potential mechanicals, on the race. So don't phone through on this number if you want to understand what the weather is doing in Ashton, please. It's actually really for just emergencies. We at that joint operations center have traffic police. We have medical services that all sit jointly with us in that venue operations center. We are able to dispatch immediately from that center. That's why it's important that if you do have an incident, that you don't try and phone your local Mediclinic. We actually have all those operators and those service providers sitting in that joint operations center with us, and our reaction time will be a lot quicker. So please, once again, carry this number with you, and if you do have an emergency, please phone it on the day and we'll be able to react accordingly. Dave, over to you.
Thanks, Don. Right, now you've left Bonnievale and you're heading towards the finish. So for the team support vehicles that have headed back, we're expecting our first riders in Swellendam at about 1:30, and the last of our riders are expected to cross the line at 4:30. So I'm going to come in here with a special request from the man that handles our seeding. He has said that if you think that you are expecting to finish at 4:30, anywhere between 3:30 and 4:30, and you've been seeded extremely late as a start, and that's primarily because you may have some very strong riders on your team, but we've got some riders that lack ability and you're not going to be racing on that day, please call into the office and get reseeded earlier. What we don't want is teams coming in after the cutoff. We actually want you to be able to finish within the time allowed, and they have asked that, and it's sometimes very difficult. We have strong riders that have weaker riders seated with them, who are going to be taking a social event. The finish line, for those of that are down in Swellendam, is not down at the showgrounds itself. The actual finish line is up in Van Eerden Street, which is a short walk from the main road and from the showgrounds, where the riders will cross the finish line as they enter Swellendam from the southern side, as it were. There will be a neutral zone from the finish line all the way down to the showgrounds in Swellendam. And I stress that's neutral because you're going to be crossing a couple of stop streets and the main road itself as you head down to the showgrounds, where you will collect your medal, your Coca-Cola, your ice-cold beverage, which could be a beer, and your meal, which will be waiting for you. Remember, we mentioned earlier, you get a free team photograph, which will be emailed to your team captain, and that is shortly after you've received your Coca-Cola and your medal. There'll be a backdrop where you and the team can line up with your medals, get your photograph taken, and that will be emailed through to the team captain. Next slide. Here we are. This is the race village. For those of you that haven't been, you'll notice that you come in, the yellow dotted line brings you down from the start, takes you in on what is the bottom end of this map into the showgrounds past the Coca-Cola sign, which is where you receive your Coca-Cola. You'll then be handed your medal. You'll take a left turn, and on your left-hand side is the bike park. Now, with an event of this nature and the number of riders, it's vitally important that we don't have bicycles laying all over the entire showground. So bikes may not be taken into the eating area, which is the Coronation Snack Shack and where the prize giving is taking place. You will need to deposit your bike in the bike park area there. So you're either going to exit to take it to your vehicle and then come back to the showgrounds, or you're going to take your bike into the bike park where you will need to rack it. There is security. We will have staff on standby to assist you, and then you can carry on to get your meal. Right, on to the next slide. As I've said before, the finish race village is at Swellendam Showgrounds. Coke, medal, drink, and food voucher you'll receive as you finish. There's a meal with some dessert and ice-cold drinks vouchers, all compliments of Coronation Fund managers and Fresh Stop. Great to have them on board alongside Coronation Fund managers to feed us at the end of this event. We've mentioned the secure bike park, and there will be complimentary massages on the field operating between 11:30 in the morning and 5 o'clock in the afternoon. That is on a first-come, first-served basis, and once again, compliments of our amazing sponsors, Coronation. Right, the Charles Milner Medal, the hotly disputed Charles Milner Medal. To qualify for this, all teams must start and finish with 12 riders. Absolutely critical. All 12 riders must cross the finish line within 10 minutes of the first rider crossing the finish line. Now, there's been some debate as to whether that should be longer or shorter. For this year, the time will remain as 10 minutes. All 12 riders cross the finish line in 10 minutes. The reason we do that 10 minutes is what we don't want is 20 or 30 teams gathering at the top of that hill near the finish line, waiting for the last riders to come in. We want to be able to give them a bit of breathing space to cross the line and wait for their riders after they're finished. The Charles Milner medals can be collected at the info area in the hall at the showgrounds from 3 o'clock onwards. So if you know that you've finished with all 12 riders within that 10-minute gap, you may go down and collect your Charles Milner medal from the info area, and that's between 3 and 4 o'clock, and then after the prize giving, from 5 to 6 o'clock in the same info area. Right, something we introduced a number of years back was the Van Leeuwen Best Team Spirit Prize. And this is to the team that demonstrates the greatest amount of gees, camaraderie, team spirit. Must finish with all 12 riders. And it would certainly help if you dressed up. That picture you see there is our Van Leeuwen Five Fairies a number of years back, who have won it, in fact, on 2 occasions, I think. So there are teams that are taking it very seriously, and there are teams that are out there having loads of fun. And this event is about the camaraderie and the team spirit and gees. So let's see who's got it and who doesn't. That will be awarded on the afternoon at the prize giving. Next slide. The prize giving will take place at 4:30, and that's under the shade tent at the showgrounds. There are tables and chairs there for you to eat your meal that you have got in the main restaurant area. The podium recognition goes to the top 3 open teams, the top 3 women's teams, the top 3 mixed teams, and the first tandem team. Charles Milner, we will call up the top open team, the top women's team, and the top mixed team. The Charles Milner obviously is those open, women, and mixed teams that have finished with all 12 riders in that cutoff time. And then lastly, the Van Leeuwen Best Team Spirit Award. We will also, very excited this year, to have Deodora come on board, and they will be giving a voucher to the winning open team and the winning women's team of a pair of Deodora for each of the team members in that team. So really excited to have them there. Also excited this year to have a new sponsor in NAMED, Nutrition. So if you're looking to be chasing, and I'm going to say this, our friends in Switzerland are probably going to shoot me. If you're looking to chase Vincenzo Nibali around the route, you'll be using the same nutrition he uses. So look out for NAMED. They will have a station somewhere near Rooibrug, where you'll be able to pick up some nutrition as well as a sample in your goodie bag. Right, and I think that's it. So what I would like to do is make special mention of our sponsors. Wonderful this year to bring to the party a number of new sponsors, Diodora, Named, and Breitling. Really, really exciting to have Breitling on board as the official timing partner of the Coronation Double Century. And we're looking forward to a long relationship with them. And of course, last but not least, our naming right partners, Coronation, who have spent 12 wonderful years supporting this event. And a very, very big thank you to them for the support that they give us.
So we've had a couple of questions on our broadcast today. I'm going to throw them and you guys can decide which one answers these questions. Willem Stein says, what is the distance from the start to the start of the neutral zone? 102 kilometers, he's suggesting? You know, roughly?
It would be about 100 k's to the start of the neutral zone at Montague. So Montague generally is not Montague, sorry, Ashton feed zone is about 114 k's, and it's 14 k's to get you to Ashton.
Then Tim Blickenhout says, is Trudeau's Pass open to traffic?
Trudeau Pass will be closed to traffic, but let me caution riders that there are some turnings and farmers that may end up on that road unexpectedly. So we want you to treat Trudeau Pass cautiously while we have road closure. We want you to ride that pass cautiously, especially with the descent on the far side.
And then Chris Petrovich is just saying, how about road closures? Will Trudeau not be closed for the descent? But obviously it will be closed for the descent.
Yes, it will be closed for the descent.
Right. And got a question. So after the first neutral zone, keeping under 30 kilometers average once you get to your vehicle, you can leave as soon as you want. So you take the minimum time. In other words, if you get to that zone, you can go as soon as you want.
There's no minimum requirement that you have to stay in a feed zone. So if you choose to stay in the feed zone for 2 minutes and leave, then your time will start rolling as you exit the feed zone. You are allowed 30 minutes in the feed zone. That is the maximum time. If you exceed 30 minutes, then your time will start rolling. But if you choose to ride straight through the team support zone and out the other side, you're entirely entitled to do so. Right. If there are no more questions, and I'm looking around at the team that's gathered here while we sweat in front of the lights, Don, I think from you and I, a very big thank you, especially to our sponsors, to the cyclists who've come out every year and supported this event and continue to enter in their droves, from the organizing team. And I'd like to make a very special mention of Don and his team, that while I'm out there riding, enjoying it with Mike Finch on my left, Don and his team are up literally from the entire previous day, making sure that that event is rolled out safely for all of us to enjoy. So Don, to you and the team, all the best on the day. And to you guys that are riding, guys and girls, have a fantastic, safe ride, and we look forward to seeing you in Swellendam on the 23rd of November.